Maybe I can start without him. This particular sutta is in the section on the 7 enlightenment factors. So you're going to get to hear the 7 enlightenment factors also.
He'll be here momentarily.
We have to wait.
Bhante, could you just enumerate all 7? There was an argument yesterday about the last 3. I couldn't understand that the last 3 are, one is tranquility, then another one is samadhi, but I know that samadhi isn't tranquility, but that there is a difference. And then is tranquility, and then there is upekkha, the next one. And there are wonderful different levels. But I was doubting that samadhi is one.
Oh, that's right.
Is not?
It is.
It is.
It is.
Now that would be now wonderful to see the difference between samadhi and equanimity.
Well, the samadhi that we're talking about here is the jhanas.
Aha. Yeah, all right. Now I'm happy.
And also, I don't use the word concentration when the word samadhi comes up. I use the word collectedness.
Yeah, I see. Collectedness, is that equal to be taken with one-pointedness?
No.
No, also not.
That's why I don't use concentration, because everybody that hears the word concentration, that's what they think it is.
It isn't.
And it isn't that.
No.
Samadhi was actually made up. The Buddha made this word up to describe a different kind of mental development. Because during that time, there was an awful lot of people practicing one-pointed concentration.
That's right. And still are.
I was talking last night about maybe 99% of the people still are.
Yeah. The majority identifies meditation with concentration.
Yeah. And even a lot of the Vipassana teachers consider that that way.
Oh.
They have the idea that you should never practice concentration, you should only practice Vipassana.
That's right.
And they say that you can't get to Nibbana by practicing concentration, and they're right, you can't.
Right. Yeah.
But when you practice collectedness, that means that what you're practicing is samatha vipassana.
That's right.
And that's a different kind of jhana. And actually, I'm starting to have an impact on people, because I'm hearing some of my, some of my teacher friends are starting to use the word samatha vipassana, and they're starting to talk about dependent origination now. So it's starting to have a little bit of an effect. Oh, isn't that better? Now it's all clear. On one occasion, the Blessed One was dwelling among the Kalyans, where there was a town of the Kalyans named Vasana. Vasana. Then in the morning, a number of monks dressed and taking their bowls and robes entered the town for alms. Then it occurred to them, it is still too early to walk for alms in the town. Let's go to the park of the wanderers of other sects. Then those monks went to the park of the wanderers of other sects. They exchanged greetings with those wanderers, and when they had concluded their greetings and cordial talk, sat down to one side. The wanderers then said to them, "Friends, the ascetic Gautama teaches the Dhamma to his disciples thus. Come, monks, abandon the 5 hindrances, the corruptions of mind that weaken wisdom, and dwell pervading 1/4 of a mind imbued with loving kindness, likewise the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 4th. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere. To all as to oneself. Dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued of loving kindness, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1/4 of the mind imbued with compassion, likewise the 2nd quarter, the 3rd quarter, and the 4th quarter. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself. Dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with compassion, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1/4 of a mind imbued with joy, likewise the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere, and to all as to oneself. Dwell pervading the entire world with a mind imbued with joy, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. Dwell pervading 1/4 of the mind imbued with equanimity, likewise the 2nd quarter, the 3rd, and the 4th. Thus above, below, across, and everywhere, to all as to oneself, pervading to the entire world with a mind imbued with equanimity, vast, exalted, measureless, without hostility, without ill will. We too, friends, teach the Dhamma to our disciples thus. Come, friends, abandon the 5 hindrances, and it goes through this whole thing again. So, friends, what here is the distinction, the disparity, the difference between the ascetic Gautama and us, that is regarding the one Dhamma teaching and the other, regarding the one manner of instruction and the other. Then those monks neither delighted nor rejected the statement of those wanderers. Without delighting in it, without rejecting it, they rose from their seats and left thinking, "We shall learn the meaning of this statement in the presence of the Blessed One." Then, when those monks had walked for alms in the town and had returned from their alms round after their meal, they approached the Blessed One. Having paid homage to him, they sat down at one side and reported to him the entire discussion between the wanderers and themselves. The Blessed One said, "Monks, when wanderers of other sects speak thus, they should be asked, 'Friend, how is the liberation of mind by loving kindness developed? What does it have as its distinction, its culmination, its fruit, and its goal? How is the liberation by mind of compassion developed? What does it have as its distinction, its culmination, its fruit, and its goal? How is the liberation of mind by joy developed? What does it have as distinction, its culmination, its fruit, and its final goal? How is the liberation of mind by equanimity developed? What does it have as its distinction, its culmination, its fruit, and its goal? Being asked thus, those wanderers would not be able to reply, and further they would meet with vexation. For what reason? Because they would not be within their domain. I do not see anyone, monks, in this world with its devas, maras, and brahmas, in this generation with its ascetics and brahmins, its devas and humans, who could satisfy the mind with an answer to those questions, except the Tathagata, or the disciple of the Tathagata, or one who has heard it from them. And how, monks, is the liberation of mind by loving kindness developed? What does it have as its distinction, its culmination, its fruit, and its goal? Here, monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of mindfulness, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of investigation of experience, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of energy, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of joy, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of tranquility, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of collectedness, accompanied by loving kindness. A monk develops the enlightenment factor of equanimity, accompanied by loving kindness, based upon seclusion, dispassion, cessation, and cessation, maturing in release. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive. He dwells perceiving the unrepulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the repulsive in the unrepulsive and in the repulsive. He dwells perceiving the repulsive therein. If he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive and in the unrepulsive. He dwells perceiving the unrepulsive therein. If he wishes, avoiding both the unrepulsive and the repulsive, may I dwell equanimously, mindful, and clearly comprehending. Then he dwells therein, equanimously, mindful, and clearly comprehending. Or else he enters and dwells in the deliverance of the beautiful. The deliverance of the beautiful is the fourth jhana. Now, when we're talking about the repulsive and unrepulsive, it's being able to look at things with a balanced mind and learning how to lovingly accept the repulsive and the unrepulsive and all of those combinations thereof without having aversion arise in your mind. And this makes me think of I think it's the 5th verse of the Dhammapada that says, hatred can never be overcome by hatred in this world. Hatred can only be overcome by love. Now, when I'm talking about loving kindness, I want to change that a little bit. And what I want to say is, aversion can never be overcome by aversion. Aversion can only be overcome by loving acceptance. okay? That helps with the getting the idea of what we repeat every morning. He beat me, he abused me. If you hold even one thought of anger, dissatisfaction, aversion, then that does not lead to a peaceful, happy mind. And that's a hard one to practice. The Bodhisattva, I've told you the story about when he was a child and had his hands and feet cut off. He didn't hold any hatred, not even one moment of hatred. He was radiating loving kindness, and that was the test for him in that lifetime. Or else he enters and dwells in the deliverance of the beautiful. Monks, the liberation of mind by loving kindness has the beautiful as its culmination. I say, for a wise monk here who has not penetrated to the superior liberation, I read that wrongly, I guess. Monks, the liberation of mind by loving kindness has the beautiful at its culmination, I say. For a wise monk here who has not penetrated to the superior liberation would be Nibbana. And how, monks, is the liberation of mind by compassion developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here, monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of mindfulness accompanied by compassion, and it goes through all the enlightenment factors again. Based upon seclusion, dispassion, cessation, maturing in release, if he wishes, may I dwell perceiving the unrepulsive in the repulsive, and we go through that all again. Or else with the complete transcendence of perceptions of gross form, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention to perceptions, I don't like that, to perceptions of diversity. There is, you notice perceptions of change. You have to be able to notice that. Aware that space is infinite, he enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of space. Monks, the liberation of mind by compassion has the base of infinity of space as its culmination. I say, for a wise monk here who has not penetrated to the superior liberation. So each of these different Brahma Viharas, when you reach its culmination and go to the next, that's called liberation at that point. And how, monks, is the liberation of mind by joy developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, and its final goal? Here, monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factor of mindfulness accompanied by joy. And we go through all of that, and it's all accompanied by joy now. Based upon seclusion, dispassion, and cessation, maturing in release. By completely transcending the base of the infinity of space, aware that consciousness is infinite, He enters and dwells in the base of the infinity of consciousness. Monks, the liberation of mind by joy has the base of the infinity of space as its culmination. Now this is somewhat different than many people say, because they're following, even Mahasi Sayadaw wrote a book on the Brahma Viharas, and he said the first 3 jhanas will only take you to the 3rd jhana, and the equanimity will take you to the 4th jhana. Now he is following the commentary of the Visuddhimagga, which an awful lot of people take as the book of authority. But when we see here that you practice compassion and you get to the infinite space, and that's the culmination of that, and you get to joy, and the culmination of that is infinite consciousness, that changes the whole ballgame. That changes everything about the way loving kindness is being taught and how it is practiced. Now you hear me talk all the time about you have to smile, you have to, you need to laugh, you need to put loving kindness into everything that you're doing. When you're practicing according to the Visuddhimagga, you have 4 wishes that you're supposed to make over and over and over again when you are wishing to your spiritual friend. May you be happy. Let's see if I can remember them. It's been a lot of years since I practiced this way. May you be happy. May you be free from physical suffering. May you be free from mental suffering. May you be well, peaceful, and happy. Okay, and those are the 4 wishes that they have you repeat over and over again like it's a mantra. And what happens with a lot of people, especially when they're doing mantra, is they do it like they're memorizing something with the top part of their mind and they're thinking about other things.
That's right.
And that is not doing the meditation. And there's no progress in the meditation when that happens to you. That is why when I tell you to practice the loving kindness meditation, got something in my eye, I tell you need to make a wish that is very sincere. And you need to feel that wish and then put that wish in your heart. That takes it out of the realm of constant repetition. And you start to progress reasonably quickly when you're able to do that. So you can see right now that the end results of each one of the Brahma Viharas is different than is what is being taught right now. I mean, even the loving kindness. You're in the 3rd jhana, the loving kindness is here. As you start, the feeling in your body starts to fade away, and you go from the 3rd jhana into the 4th jhana, the feeling of loving kindness changes. You can't feel anything in your heart anymore. It changes to your mind. Now, I have to admit that the practice of breaking down the barriers, like I've been talking before, is from the Visuddhimagga. I've never admitted that before.
Actually, maybe you did say it in another talk once, I think.
What do you mean breaking down?
Breaking down the barriers, you get to the fourth jhana, and then I tell you you need to change to another spiritual friend and another spiritual friend and another spiritual friend. And then to family members, and then to neutral persons, and then to enemies, as many as there are. Now, the reason that I tell people to practice this way at the start is because radiating loving kindness to the different directions is very hard to do. And it takes a while. But when you start making it personal, and you start sincerely wishing your friend, your spiritual friend, true happiness, and feeling that happiness in yourself, it's very easy to get going with your meditation. Now, the first three jhanas are actually considered emotional jhanas because they have joy in it and there's happiness in it. When you get to the fourth jhana, you're considered an advanced student, and now it's with equanimity and there is no more emotion in it. Now the first jhana is described in one of the texts like a bee that's going towards a flower. And he sees the flower and he starts hovering around the flower and he lands on the outside of a petal. That's like being in the first jhana. And then he goes into the middle, and that's like being in the second jhana. And then he gets all of the nectar and whatever. And he comes back and he starts flying home. That's like being in the third jhana. And when he delivers all of that nectar, that's like being in the fourth jhana. So, it's pretty amazing actually to be able to experience all of the jhanas in a reasonably quick way. There are a lot of people that believe that getting into the arupa jhanas is really a major feat. It's a major thing that happens for you. And in a way it is. I mean, you're starting to progress real well, you're starting to see how dependent origination works more easily, and you're going deeper into your meditation. But when I was in Asia, even the attainment of the first jhana was considered a major thing. And when I let go of the Visuddhimagga and I started teaching people by reading the suttas, people were starting to get into jhanas pretty regularly. And it isn't that big a deal. The reason that it seems like such a big deal for most people is because it's talked about quite highly in the suttas. Not like it's an impossible state to get into. But I know I went to some places in Thailand and they told me if I wanted to get into a jhana, it was going to take me about 15 years. And when I went to Sri Lanka, they told me, oh, we're much better than that. It only takes about 10 years. And I'm used to people getting into the jhana at least in the first week of a meditation retreat. And if they don't go any higher than that, I'm wondering what they're doing in the retreat, because they're not following the directions closely enough. So you progress reasonably quickly when you're practicing the kind of meditation that the Buddha is prescribing. And that extra step of relaxing is the thing that makes the difference in the meditation. Relaxing of the tension and tightness is letting go of craving. And when you let go of craving, like it said in that sutta last night, the Dhamma is immediately effective. And you start to see that pretty quickly as you practice the 6 R's, and you have that relaxed step in there. Your mind, every time you use that relaxed step, becomes pure. There's no craving, there's no clinging. There's only this mind that's alert. There's only this mind that is very agile, is very quick, and it is pure. And you bring that little bit of purity back to your object of meditation. As you do that over and over again, you start having a more and more uplifted mind that's more alert. And you'll begin to sit with your object of meditation for a longer period of time. And the distraction doesn't last for near as long as it did. And you will be able to experience a jhana as you do this over and over and over again. I have to say that the more you practice the 6 R's and staying with your object of meditation, with your daily activities, the faster your progress becomes. Your daily activities are incredibly important. Now, I've had some people that they were zooming right along with their meditation, and all of a sudden they just stopped. And I start questioning. I say, what are you doing differently than you were? Why are you slowing down now? The answer always comes back because you're getting distracted with some kind of thing during your daily activity. Now the thing with the practice that I'm showing you is it's not just for the retreat. If you want to progress when you go home, you need to practice your 6 R's with your daily activities as much as possible. That means smiling and being happy, doesn't it? And the more you can smile and be happy and relax that tension and tightness, you sit down and do your meditation and you can zoom right along in your meditation even without being in a retreat. I have students that do that. They write me an email every now and then and they start talking about where they are, and I'm going, oh, look at that. They've gone from this jhana to that jhana because they were serious about the practice, about doing the practice all the time. And the more you can recognize that tension and tightness that arises in your head, and let it go and radiate some loving kindness and smiles to people, the easier your sitting becomes, the less distraction you have. The more openness, it changes your personality so that you're not so tight and tense. You start becoming more accepting of situations that before would have driven you crazy. And I bring this up again, as when we were coming across the country, we stopped at a place along one of the toll roads to get some coffee. And when we came out, I started looking at the truck in the parking lot, and as the closer I got, I said, somebody ran into the truck. And we got there and took a look at it, and sure enough, basically what they did, I think, was they parked too close and they tried to turn and get out, and they wound up scraping the whole side of the truck. And we looked at each other and I said, well, okay, and got in the truck and said, let's go. Now, if that would have happened, I know for a fact, if that would have happened with Kema a few years ago, there would have been an emotional volcano and a continual complaining about how can anybody do this. But now that doesn't happen for her. She looks at it, I look at it, yeah, can we drive the car without hurting anything? Look underneath, yeah, okay, let's go.
It was like, what is essential, what is unessential, is unessential. It's there, we can still drive it, get in the car and go. There's nothing else.
And we didn't even talk about it after that.
It was so...
But it is really an immediate comprehension of what is really hurting here, and how, in which way it is inhibiting your next step, and things like that.
Well, it didn't inhibit anything. Yeah. It just said, oh, okay, we'll have to fix it when we get home. Okay?
You see it for what it is and nothing more, and that's it.
Yeah, well,
and then
I share an experience.
Yeah.
Being in what is that state? One of those states, we wanted to have holidays, and so we are doing that. I forgot, was it Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico.
Yes, it's kind of an advanced state. So here we wanted to see this rainforest closer and closer, take a kind of a train where they were loading or carrying corpses in with, I thought it was, at first glance, I looked at it, we stand in line for the ticket, and there's someone on a stretcher with sunglasses. And then I look again, and it was a corpse. So they let go. Then the next load were chickens and bicycles and so on. And this was only one class, which would be below third class. So we bought this train, and it's a wonderful quickly kind of makes my husband makes friendship with a young man. And it is getting a little more darker and a little rainy, and the train kind of felt like it has stations with 2 or 3 banana trees. It was not really a city much. So I go to use the bathroom there, and my husband said, I said, darling, here is my handbag, you know, there are all our papers in it, and we were 5 days in Puerto Rico. And I come back and I see suddenly him jumping up and saying, oh! And I said, you know, that was your friend who runs away now with my handbag. And well, the thing, the kind of point is here, as I go, I said, darling, be careful, I leave the handbag next to you. How can you say that? Of course, something like that. So he is sitting here, here is an open window, outside is the kind of the fading light of the day, little rays, rain, and a few banana leaves, trees is a station. And he went out, said, this is this young man, and comes back as the train goes on and grabs the handbag and runs with it. And I was so perplexed. And I still hear myself, may he be blessed with that. That's all I said. Or may he use it rightfully, or something like that. I had no reaction. My husband couldn't find any words for it because I had reminded him that is my handbag. We both spoke no words that evening. And we couldn't continue our journey. We had no checks and nothing, huh? So, well, we just did the next step, booked in and waited till we got the next train back and went to in the city there, I don't know, forgot the main city. And he could not kind of digest this. And we came home after 2 days. And never was a word spoken about it. And I still see him running and feel very good about it, that I did not have this attachment to it. But it wasn't, you know, that I am always detached, but seeing I could do nothing. And there is the best thing then to stand where you are and be grateful it could be worse.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that had cut deeply into me. So it's more when it's still there when I see something is missing and I will say a few things. But then I realize my life continues. It is not depending on that. And may that one who has taken it be happy and not have, and maybe something may happen in him. It isn't feeling really good when you begin to look at such actions of yourself, huh? So, and metta can help in that, to turn it around.
Oh, yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
And it keeps us so much better on the path, and there comes a certain inner joy. It's not a joy, but it is a fine energy where you kind of feel happy inside deeply that you are not perturbed about it.
Yeah.
And that is a marvelous feeling.
That's contentment.
What is that?
The contentment.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, it is.
But it's
not
a
only
really good example of what happens with the metta in your life,
yeah.
with what happens in life.
Yeah,
No.
something similar. I was not even in the Dharma yet consciously, but I always had a little bit great capacity to forgive my sister who was stealing from me the little things out of my handbag. And I knew if I confront her, she will not will deny, and I didn't like that. So I would just kind of be cleverly say, Sister darling, I lost this or that, and if you find it, you put it back in my drawer, and or bring it to me. And you know, I knew she had stolen it. And it would go back, because somehow I did it so that she was not offended. That is a
Excellent.
very, very wonderful way.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
So metta is a powerful, the non-reaction, the non-interference in that moment on a conscious level is kind of opening up the next step, maybe the next jhana,
Mm.
for quiet and equanimity maybe.
Mm.
It's just magic.
There's a lot of magic when you hold metta in your mind.
Yeah, right. And the way you describe it, or have described it, it reminded me, I had the question, isn't that then maybe that faculty in mindfulness that observes and perceives in that expanded way the metta, and not in that what you placed or mentioned in the just concentration way? Isn't that faculty which we find in mindfulness as clear comprehension?
It helps very much
Does
with
it?
the clear comprehension.
Yes.
Yes, yes it does.
Yes. Can you quickly repeat these 4 clear comprehensions, which belong to that part, which is part of mindfulness?
I'm not sure I can
Is-
do that. I
Yeah.
don't think I
I
know,
know.
what 4
Isn't
you're
that-
talking about.
It's 4.
It's
Four.
this will be mine, I
Well,
think. There's 4 pieces that were in the mindfulness section that talked about 4 ways of comprehending, but it's
Yes,
I
but
remember.
anyway, it is helpful. It is
I'm not
expanded.
sure I can do that.
Well,
I don't remember seeing it in the suttas.
no?
No. I
Well, I got it from-
I can tell you what full mindful or full awareness is.
Mhm.
That I know that where it is in the suttas. But I don't remember clear comprehension in the suttas.
Well, maybe without mentioning. You didn't mention it now, and you talked about expansive mindfulness,
Yeah.
and not concentration being the key word.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think one...
I'm just at a loss. I just don't remember.
I have some in my mind.
What are they?
Maybe it's in,
Is it suitable, that moment? Does it have any practical aspect, the action? Is it practical or suitable in alignment with your practice? And is it benefiting your practice, the continuation of the Dharma practice? And the last is this kind of anatta thing, the emptiness, the purity of
impersonal nature.
of metta, the
Yeah.
purity of
Impersonal
metta.
nature of the metta.
Yeah.
So then, that's, it is practical to be metta in metta
Yeah.
and blessing others, and it is suitable, kind of fits into your practice, and it benefits and helps the continuation of the practice, carrying it, maintaining it.
Because it's
You
useful.
talked about it. You actually had all 4 stages in it, which I now remember. And the last is the last, you
It's
said the
impersonal.
4th jhana,
Yeah.
that purity and subtlety,
Yeah.
mm,
Yeah.
where it isn't just the words spoken, you
Right.
see? Where
That's
it touches
that's the one that I don't know why so many people are so enthralled with repeating 4 sentences over and over again.
Oh,
Although I did it at one time, I did it for a few months.
Well, this is probably they are taking care on their business of mind. It is quieting.
Well,
Maybe not genuinely, but it is said.
yeah.
It cannot go to the Bahamas and have an imaginary holiday. When you say, may I be happy, may my father be happy, my brother, and so on. You have a job to do here. So it might be in alignment with one of those comprehensions, you know. It is,
Yeah, when I was taking care of Usilananda right before he died,
who died?
Usilananda,
Oh, yeah.
he asked me to teach him loving kindness meditation. He had been practicing for years loving kindness meditation to the 7 different kinds of beings.
You know, he blessed this place.
He blessed every place he was, I think.
Well, I felt very honored
Oh,
at
yes,
that time
yes.
when I made my weekend house a meditation center,
Mm,
you see.
yes.
And he had such a very painful death.
But he wasn't
He wasn't there.
He wasn't in his body a lot of that time.
Really?
He actually came and visited when I was in Missouri. He came to see what we were doing
Where?
in Missouri. I have a friend that is very sensitive and can see beings and that sort of thing, and he said, "Who's that monk over there?" And I asked him to describe it, and it was Usilananda.
Yeah, it was pretty amazing.
And that was a few weeks before he died.
He had a tumor in the brain, I think.
He didn't when he died.
No?
He didn't die from the tumor. He died from all the medicine they gave him for all the other stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes. Interesting.
They did an MRI on his head.
Mhm.
This was about 2 months after he had the operation, and he had no tumor in his head at all. But his body was in such weak shape that his kidneys were going bad and the different things, and they couldn't do anything with it.
Oh.
It's really a shame. Anyway, getting back to this.
Expanded metta.
And what, monks, is the liberation of mind by equanimity, or how is the liberation of mind by equanimity developed? What does it have as its destination, its culmination, its fruit, its final goal? Here, monks, a monk develops the enlightenment factors accompanied by equanimity. Based upon seclusion, dispassion, cessation, maturing, and release. By completely transcending the base of the infinity of consciousness, aware that there is nothing. He enters upon and dwells in the base of nothingness. The liberation of mind by equanimity has the base of nothingness as its culmination. I say for the wise monk here who has not penetrated to the superior liberation. So this is a short sutta, actually, and I had planned something else, so don't worry. But this gives you the idea of the difference in the depth of practice between what the Visuddhimagga is teaching and what the suttas are actually saying. And it was a complete shock to me to run across this. when I saw it, I couldn't believe it because I had been believing what I had been taught by a lot of teachers. And then I saw that this goes a lot deeper. And when I found this out, I sent emails to Joseph Goldstein and Sharon Salzberg and Jack Kornfield, and nobody returned anything that I sent to them. They didn't acknowledge that there was any difference in their practice, and they didn't change the practice at all. Even to this day, people are still practicing the way of the Visuddhimagga.
Have you read her book? She speaks of as Sharon's book.
Yeah.
I haven't read it, but I know.
I have trouble reading it.
Pardon?
I have trouble reading it.
Really?
Yeah.
It had great resounds everywhere.
Yeah, I understand. But the thing is, there should have been an acknowledgement of that and some kind of communication, but there wasn't. And it's sad. But since then, I have shown this to other teachers, and they really like that. And now they're starting to teach more in alignment with the suttas, at least.
What number was that? SN.
54 brackets 4.
You're in the Samyutta.
Accompanied by loving kindness.
In the Bojjhanga.
In the Bojjhanga Samyutta.
What book is
Samyutta Nikaya.
Nikaya.
Here's something that's interesting. On one occasion, monks, when the mind becomes sluggish, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation of experience, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of joy. For what reason? Because mind is sluggish. It is easy to arouse it with those things. Suppose a man wants to make a small fire flare up. He throws dry grass, dry cow dung, dry timber into it and blows on it, and does not scatter soil over it. Would he be able to make the small fire flare up? Yes, Venerable Sir. So too, monks, on occasion, when mind becomes sluggish, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation of experience, enlightenment factor of energy, and enlightenment factor of joy. For what reason? Because the mind is sluggish, monks, and it is easy to arouse those things. On an occasion, a monk, when the mind becomes excited, it is untimely to develop the enlightenment factor of investigation, the enlightenment factor of energy, and the enlightenment factor of joy. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, monks. It is difficult to calm it down with those things. Suppose, monk, a man wants to extinguish a great bonfire, and he throws dry grass, dry cow dung, and dry timber into it, blows on it, and does not scatter soil over it. Would he be able to extinguish that great bonfire? No, he wouldn't. So, when mind becomes excited, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of collectedness, the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because mind is excited. That means restless. And it's easy to calm it down with those things. Suppose a man wants to extinguish a great bonfire and he throws wet grass, wet cow dung, and wet timber onto it, sprays it with water and scatters soil over it. Would he be able to extinguish that great bonfire? It says, yes, sir, and I say possibly, the way he's describing it. So, too, monks, on an occasion when mind becomes excited, it is timely to develop the enlightenment factor of tranquility, the enlightenment factor of collectedness, and the enlightenment factor of equanimity. For what reason? Because the mind is excited, and it's easy to calm it down with those things. Isn't that something? Just like I was saying. Amazing.
You just threw a wrench in my drawing now. It's not really a seesaw like that on joy. It's a seesaw between joy and tranquility. That's where and mindfulness sort of steers it. So I have to change it.
Not really. Now, this is something that is very interesting, and it kind of goes against a lot of teachings, the way that they're presented. And at Sawati, monks, I will teach you the wrong way and the right way. Listen to that and attend closely, I will speak. Yes, Venerable Sir, those monks replied. The Blessed One said this. And what, monks, is the wrong way? With ignorance as condition, volitional formations come to be. With formations as condition, consciousness. And it goes through the entire 12 links of dependent origination. Such is the origin of this whole mass of suffering. This, monks, is called the wrong way. So what we're basically saying is that people that just talk about suffering, they're not teaching the way the Buddha recommended. And an awful lot of people that the first time or second time they hear a discourse or a Dhamma talk by somebody and they're just talking about suffering, they say, I don't want any of this. I already know what suffering is. I don't want to get overly involved, and it's pessimistic. And that's why a lot of people call Buddhism a pessimistic religion. But if we teach the way the Buddha said, and what, monks, is the right way? With the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance comes cessation of formations. With the cessation of formation, cessation of consciousness. Such is the cessation of this whole mass of suffering. This, monks, is called the right way. And almost every discourse that I give, I very seldom talk about suffering, but I very often talk about the cessation of suffering. And that changes the entire perspective of the way things can be taught. I have a friend that teaches Zen meditation, and somebody brand new comes to him and wants to learn how to meditate. And after they meditate, then he starts out by saying, the Buddha taught suffering, and he doesn't say anything else. And it's really shocking to a lot of people. We don't want to hear about suffering, we want to hear about the cessation of the suffering. We want to hear how to have a balanced mind. Unpleasant things arise. So, now this is another part of a sutta, and this tells some very important facts that kind of get glossed over. Monks, before my enlightenment, while I was still a bodhisattva, not yet fully enlightened, it occurred to me, alas, this world has fallen into trouble. In that it is born, ages, and dies. It passes away and is reborn. Yet it does not understand the escape from the suffering, headed by aging and death. When will an escape be discerned from this suffering, headed by aging and death? Then, monks, it occurred to me, when what exists does aging and death come to be? By what is aging and death conditioned? Then, monks, through careful attention, there took place in me a breakthrough in wisdom. When there is birth, aging and death come to be. Aging and death have birth as its condition. Then, monks, it occurred to me, when what exists does birth come to be? By what is birth conditioned? Then, monks, through careful attention, there took place in me a breakthrough by wisdom. When there is habitual tendency, birth comes to be, with birth as habitual. Birth has habitual tendency as its condition. And this goes through all of the 12 links of the dependent origination. And then it talks about the cessation. When, monks, it occurred to me, when what does not exist does aging and death not come to be. With the cessation of what is the cessation of aging and death come? How does it come about? Then, monks, through careful attention, there took place in me a breakthrough by wisdom. When there is no birth, aging and death does not come to be. With the cessation of birth comes the cessation of aging and death. And then it goes through all of the 12 links. But the point of this is how he was investigating and how he was looking while he was still a bodhisattva. And he knew all of the 12 links of dependent origination. They didn't all of a sudden just pop up in his mind on the night that he became enlightened. He worked very hard to see this. And that means that, you know, he was probably one of the most advanced meditators in the world at that time. And he was taking his keen attention and putting it on the dependent origination and seeing how all of the process worked. But it took his backing up and putting that extra step of relax into his meditation before he was able to realize that. And realize that means seeing the Four Noble Truths. and dependent origination as they truly are. So I've actually had some monks tell me I didn't know what I was talking about when I said that the Buddha discovered dependent origination while he was still a bodhisattva. And I've since got the book out and showed him. But what an incredibly brilliant mind he had. There's just no way around it. It's so brilliant to be able to see the Four Noble Truths in each one of the links of dependent origination. And
It's
this
very
is
scientific, isn't it?
very.
Highly. That's why you read a little bit here in this magazine, or Inquiring Mind, great invitation of scientists by teachers
Yeah.
and discussing the science of the scientific method. I mean, science is a method, isn't
Yeah.
it? And fits into different fields.
And it has to be repeatable. That's the thing
That's right.
that's
And
really amazing.
observable, and then the inference to get the results of it. And so that's what we are doing, the former, the constant attentiveness,
Yeah.
and seeing what arises in it, like metta, that
Yeah.
atmosphere, and it is a natural development. It is not something really to be cultivated, nor to kind of investigate it and opening up to that what is there.
Yes.
And then he gives us this kind of fantastic the teaching is only how to get there to. It's a science of mind, actually.
It is a science of mind. And I know a lot of people that object to that.
Oh yeah.
That object to saying that. But it is so precise and so exact and repeatable, not by just one other person, but by many other persons.
Yes, right.
Ajahn Brahmavamsa, he says, Buddhism is pure science, and it's one of his talks, which is I thought was a fascinating term.
Yeah.
But you see, science is not a thing in itself, I think. It is a method. Science is the investigation, actually, the observation, and the inference from it. And you can put it into dentistry and medicine, psychology,
Yeah,
and business too. You can investigate the business. There is a course going on in Santa Fe right now. Can big business come from a heart, or can get it? Yeah, I don't know exactly, but can big business relate to the mind or to the ethics? That is all in it. So
Well,
they investigate.
Yeah, in the time
But
of the Buddha,
see, the problem with big business is it's run on greed.
greed.
Oh yeah, but and
And
overlooking the ethics
Yeah,
or not having any ethics,
yeah.
isn't it, Dudley?
Mm.
Corruption and exploitation.
well,
But what
it seems that way.
But what the Buddha was doing was taking the Five Noble Truths and using them as a tool.
5 noble.
I'm sorry, Four Noble Truths. I just added another one in honor of Ruth, you know. Okay, the Four Noble Truths and using them as investigative questions. What is this? What is the cause of it? What is the cessation of it? What is the path to the cessation of it? And applying it to cognitive psychology.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole 12 links is the line of cognition. And so when you go to cognitive psychology, you see how everything actually works. So, I mean, the Four Noble Truths are absolutely brilliant.
Well, it's very systematic.
Yeah. And you see him using it again and again and again in the suttas. When he set up his discourses, he used 3 or 4 of the Noble Truths every single time in a frame.
For instance, monks, to those ascetics and Brahmins who do not understand these things, the origin of these things, the cessation of these things, and the way leading to the cessation of these things, that is the Four Noble Truths. What are those things that they don't understand? Whose origin they don't understand, whose cessation they don't understand, and the way leading to the cessation that they don't understand? They don't understand aging and death. That's the first noble truth. The origin, the cessation, and way leading to the cessation. And it's that way with every link.
I didn't get that last in.
It is that way with every link of dependent origination.
The origin of it.
What is it?
What is it? It
Yes.
would be birth or habitual tendency or clinging or craving. And then its origin, its cessation, and way leading to its cessation. Yes.
I was going to ask this question a little bit later, and does that mean that it's kind of interesting, you can have a dependent origination, and then you have craving in between each link, correct?
Yes. A little
And
bit.
so you have craving is based upon something else, as you've said. So that means that there's a whole other dependent origination link attached to that. Is that correct? Does that make sense?
No.
How
I
is
don't
it?
see what you're saying.
So if every link has craving in it, craving there's something that's dependent upon, there's a whole nother dependency upon craving, right? So,
What it's depending on is the link before it.
Yeah.
oh,
Link
okay.
before it. And then when you finally let go of ignorance, there is no before it.
Okay.
So there is no
Okay.
craving at all.
The big one is when he says the remainderless fading away and cessation of ignorance. That's a big one,
Yeah.
you know, because you can get rid of it for tomorrow, but
Right.
you can't have any remainder at all, and it's the total cessation of it you're going for.
So the more we, for everybody that's doing the practice right now, I think I've recommended for everybody that they focus more with tranquil feeling and work with the tranquility and the equanimity in your practice as much as you can. Bring up that wish and put it in your object of meditation.
Into what?
Your object of meditation. And you will see a marked improvement. Now, one of the things that I was talking about with almost everybody today was the upakalesas, and one in particular of the kalesas is the kalesa of longing. Now, if you have a longing for something to be a particular way, what it does is it takes you out of the present moment and you're trying to lean into the next present moment. And what that does is your energy is not completely imbalanced. And this is subtle stuff. This is not big knock your socks off stuff. This is just a little tiny adjustment. Letting go of all longing and developing that beginner's mind with your practice will help very much, so that you're not putting that little extra lean into your meditation. Developing that mind that has no idea what's going to happen next, and it's okay not to know, means that you have let go of that longing. Where's the other book?
Here.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you talk about this?
Bhante, do you assign the objects for the meditation, or do you leave it up to?
Well, I give everybody the loving kindness meditation to start with, and then they progress, just like it says in the sutta that I was reading, they can progress into the arupa jhanas and go through the different stages of the Brahma Viharas, and it's a natural process that occurs with that.
And are there particular objects available in the teaching for the second jhana, the third, or the fourth?
Oh, it's the same object of meditation.
Yeah, it is, but somewhere, if you go into a jhana, from one of the jhanas into the next, there is a progressiveness and calmness and collectedness.
Well, yeah, there's
And
different
what is
factors
the object
that
for
arise.
it? Could it be the breath? Or does it
I
have only mental?
teach the breath, and I
Yeah, you
teach
do.
I teach loving kindness. Those are the
Ah.
two meditations that I
That's
teach.
a beautiful base.
And they, you get the experience of jhana is very similar in both of those until you get into the arupa jhanas. Once you get into the arupa jhanas, the experience is a little bit similar, or a little bit dissimilar with the breath than the Brahma Viharas, because the feeling changes
That's right.
with the Brahma Viharas. And the feeling stays pretty much the same with the breath. There's different things that happen in each one of the different jhanas, but there's not that subtle change of feeling.
Is that the Vedana you really refer, or is sensations?
Well,
Is it?
it's Vedana, but it's the feeling of compassion is different than the feeling of joy, is different than the feeling of equanimity. But when you're practicing the breath,
Mhm.
it doesn't get involved in the feeling like that.
Mhm.
And you more or less, you stay with the breath, even in your arupa jhanas to the seventh jhana.
Really?
Yes. And once you get into the realm of nothingness, when you finally get into neither perception nor non-perception, you don't feel breath at all then. It's hard to tell whether you're in that state or not. It's hard to see mind at all. By that time, everybody that's practicing the 6 R's, the recognize, release, relax, re-smile, return, repeat. When they get to that state, then their mind it's on automatic.
Mhm.
Any kind of little movement or disturbance at all from complete peace.
Mhm.
Mind sees that, and then 6 hours that, and then it's very deep peace again.
Is there somewhere that moment where the observing or the observer merges into the object, into the, that was very much stressed by some teachers. The observer and the observed is one.
That's almost too abstract for me to really understand. I don't quite know how to answer that.
Uh-huh. Well, there is a separation so it is said, as long as one has this position of I am observing, I have an object.
Well, but it's mind's eye. When you let go of the craving, there is no I happening.
Yeah,
there
that's
is wisdom's eye
Mhm.
that observes.
Yeah. Well, I think, my question is for that what you just mentioned, the wisdom eye,
Yeah,
where there is not a separated entity observing and
Right.
the object. So then there is maybe a making and a special atmosphere of depths, or special depths of the calmness, of the equanimity, and of the blessedness of metta.
it would be beyond the metta,
Yes.
and it would be beyond the realm of nothingness. And I think the realm of neither perception nor non-perception would be about the closest that I think that you could get to that. And that's still not the end of the road.
No. Mhm.
But there does come, when you're in that space and you come out of that and you reflect on what happened while you were in neither perception nor non-perception, your mind has extraordinary clarity of observation.
Is that
David
mind
has a-
that you just mentioned identical with the knowing faculty which arises somewhere? Understanding which you just noticed is an enormous clarity and is a wisdom mind, or didn't you say
It
that?
is very, very
mind
strong
has-
wisdom mind, yes.
Yes. Well, it has a clarity.
Yes, oh yes.
And it is more than observing and being observed. It
Right.
is just, maybe is it...
There is the start of each one of the links of dependent origination, and as soon as that is seen by that clarity, there is the relaxing
That's it.
and letting go, and that's all happening automatically. It's not an effort
I think
to do it.
automatically is maybe also equal in this case of naturally the
Yes.
karmic effect, no? The karmic
Karmic
result.
effect.
From that what I am offering.
Yeah.
When
yeah.
you say automatically, then that means it happens in progressiveness, without your doing, without my
Right.
doing and
Right.
directing it. So then that is opening up to what you mentioned as emptiness.
Yeah.
And what is that emptiness?
It's empty of a belief in a self.
Of what?
It's of a belief in a self.
That's right, yeah.
And,
The interference of it.
right. There's only that pure mind.
Does that know itself, or?
Of
Because there is no
doesn't know
So then
itself.
how do
There's knowing, but there's no self there.
Now that's right. So it knows itself, that consciousness.
It knows,
It knows.
yeah.
So we are in knowing without knower.
Yeah, pretty much,
Hmm.
yeah.
It's really scientific, isn't it? It's not a religion and to believe,
That right,
and it's really freeing.
yes.
Good, I said, I see myself crying in some moments out of gratefulness that it is possible
Yeah.
for us. It's not just there, like, so,
No, it's
Give
not
up
it's
hope.
not a dream that somebody came up with, it's a real thing.
oh yeah. All right. Then you have also in purity the enlightenment factor of joy, or
Yeah.
is that grosser? You know, there's a very
Well, you know, all of the enlightenment factors have to be in perfect balance
Yeah, yeah.
in order for mind to be completely awake.
so it's a certain wholeness in that emptiness.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's not that I am trying to balance something,
No.
it's just mind will balance itself when everything is right.
Hmm.
And that's what I was starting to get at with the longing, with the upakalesas, the imperfections, about how even a slight little wish that something was different other than it is, or making a determination for something to happen in a particular way, that causes mind to have too much energy in it, and that causes the hindrances to arise. So it's making, if you make a determination, make it very simple, that your mind can be very clear, that your mind can be accepting, that your mind can be very tranquil. Not, may I get into this jhana or that jhana. So you make the determination of your mind not having any longing in it, not having any whatever, you know, and then you start your practice, and if that longing starts to come up, you'll be able to recognize it for what it is and let it go
Yeah.
very easily.
But that also goes
Oh yeah.
automatically, because there is no self then, is it?
Well, depending on the stage of the meditation, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That's right, it does, and that.
Bhante, if you qualified the wishes you're talking about with a phrase like "to the extent possible,"
No, don't put that on it.
okay, because that's too
That has
specific.
longing on it, doesn't it? See, the subtleness of longing is really, it blows my mind. And I never really even considered it until I ran across this sutta, but there's this extra little bit of energy of wanting things, or wanting to control things, or wanting things to be. And with that little bit of extra energy, your mind never really settles down.
There is a bumper sticker going around, and it is saying, "Since I gave up hope, I feel so much better." That is a very samsaric experience, but it is what we are talking is the kind of progressiveness of that recognition.
That's it.
You everything, in everything you see the Dharma.
It's wonderful, isn't it?
Yes. But there is a truth on the level of daily life. If you have attached yourself to hope, well, you don't see anything anymore. It's a tension coming in and you are kind of hoping. It'll be all right, let's hope it's getting good.
Yeah.
You see? It's really dangerous. It is for yourself. It lets us miss a lot in the
Hope is
process.
dangerous. Give it
I
up.
think it's
Shouldn't.
She has another bumper sticker. Hope is dangerous. Give it up.
Oh yeah, oh God, yes. Well, of course, I bought that I got that, and I was having always got entertainment in the parking lots. People really wanting to know, how can you live without hope? That is all you have. And you throw it away?
Yes?
Yes. Mhm. Oh.
David, did you have a question?
Before you know,
Wait a
something
minute. Poor David had a question 30 minutes ago.
You see, that is wonderful actually when you recognize that. That is already a Dharma you see there.
Yes.
And you can see what is behind hope and what all, and then what I said is dangerous, huh?
Yeah.
It's all, I mean, everything understands itself then, so to speak. And you see the ignorance of people.
Oh, yeah.
And then you
You
the
see
only
how
thing
they
is
ignore
metta
so
then.
many things. It's just phenomenal almost.
Yes.
So, David, I'm with you.
You partially talked about it. I'm trying to pinpoint the difference between a wholesome desire to progress and a longing to progress.
The wholesome desire is pointing your mind in the direction you want it to go, like making a determination to have peace and quiet, peace and calm. Longing is, I want something.
Mhm.
See, the wholesome desire doesn't have any I in it. But the longing does have that little tiny attachment to it.
Has a definite goal, you know?
Yeah.
And all effort goes in that thing then.
I think also the longing has the quality of judging the present moment in comparison to what is desired.
Yes.
And so the craving kicks in there at a very subtle level, and it is that evaluation of the present moment because it's not what is desired or it's something else. And so you have the cycle starting there at that moment over and over and over again.
Yeah. And that's what causes you to lean out of the present moment, just a little taste,
Mhm.
instead of just being in the present moment. That's the subtleties of all of our attachments, is that they keep on making us lean a little bit out of the present moment. So, what's your determination? I want to be in the present moment. That's it.
That also can be very misunderstood and justified.
Yeah, of course.
It's all dangerous.
It can be,
Yeah, I know.
but it doesn't have to be. That's the
That's
one.
right. But that's why we practice, I think.
Yeah.
Because it's more and more I become aware it's not really so strange, this Dharma. We are working with very ordinary stuff, with hope and with desire, you know, and then in the Dharma it becomes the kind of force to where it clarifies itself.
Yeah.
why we are using, and where is the avidya, the ignorance. It's not understanding the words we are using. Automatically we go on.
Yeah.
And that is, I think part of insight
Yeah.
or light in the mind or
Yeah.
something. And it brings joy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why right effort's so important.
And the
Yeah,
right
yeah.
effort is the 6 R's.
Right.
Right.
Is a determination
Okay.
like an effort? Because to me, the whole determination thing gets into a very much of like a forcing. And I know in Thailand, when you do a determination and you don't fulfill it, then there's like karmic consequences. And they're very, like if you determine to sit all night, they've been like, if you don't fulfill it, that has a very negative karmic effect. If you could just say something on that, because there's quite a lot of people that say that. When you make the determination and you don't follow through with it, you're really...
That's why I said you have to be careful with your determinations.
Okay.
And when you make a determination for your meditation, you can't make a determination that I'm going to sit in jhana. You make a determination that mind will be calm and clear. You see the difference?
Mhm.
Okay, now what they're talking about in Thailand is very attached kind of determination. And they're trying, there's, one of the things of my experience in Thailand was this one monk, he said the same thing over and over again every day. Eat less, sleep less, meditate more.
Say it again, the first I didn't get.
Eat less,
Eat less.
sleep less, meditate more. Because he was working with Thai and they like to eat a lot and they like to sleep. But when a Westerner came there to this particular center, he took it to heart and he lost, in a short period of time, he lost like 75 pounds. And he was like a skeleton. And he was trying to sit with 3 or 4 hours sleep a night. And his practice was not good because he was following that advice that was really meant for the Thais and not for him. And it's kind of funny what happened to him. He lost so much weight and he was being so hungry all of the time that he was having dreams of fat women filling their mouth up with food. And when I ran across him like that, and he's a friend that I had in Australia, and I saw what he was doing, I said, it's time to maybe go to someplace else and gain your strength back. You need to start eating again, and you need to let go of the meditation. And I wound up talking him into going to Burma with me. So anyway, the subtleties of the making a determination, there's the wishful thinking, hopeful kind of determination, and there's the simple pointing your mind towards having more clarity.
It's like a resolve versus
Yes.
like a determination.
Yes.
Well, even when you're teaching us, like mastery on the jhanas, you're teaching us to not say that I'm going to sit in the 4th jhana for an hour. You don't do that. You say, I'm going to sit I'll sit no higher than the 4th jhana. And then you don't get trapped by that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got it.
Would you say a proper determination is, I'm gonna sit for 2 hours?
No.
I'm going to sit for no more than 2 hours.
Well, but a proper determination would be, I'm going to lovingly accept whatever arises for the next 2 hours.
Hmm?
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good one.
Metta.
Now you see the difference?
Yeah, I have to think about it. So, because a lot of times I make that determination before I sit. I'm going to sit. I'm not going to get out until the bell rings or whatever. You're suggesting not to do that.
Right. You notice that everybody here sits for different lengths of time. I don't live my life by a bell, and I don't expect anybody else to. Sit for at least 30 minutes, and when your sitting is good, sit longer. If your sitting is not good, don't stop before 30 minutes. Okay? So you can be sitting and it seems like you've been sitting for an hour, and you look at the clock and you've been sitting 5 minutes. Well, you still got 25 minutes to go, I don't care. But there's an awful lot of unrealistic kinds of determinations that you can make, and then if you don't fulfill that, you feel guilty, and you feel like you're not doing something right. But every sitting is a different kind of experience. And some sittings can be 45 minutes and some sittings can be 4 hours. But to do it in a natural way, when it's appropriate and it feels right to continue sitting, that's when your best meditation occurs. Now, I told you the story at the beginning of the retreat. I went to Burma to one particular teacher, and the first day I went to the interview, he said, "How long did you sit?" And I said, "I sat for an hour, I walked for an hour. That's standard." And he said, "Why don't you sit longer?" And I said, "Okay." Came back in, "How long did you sit?" Sat for 2 hours, walked for an hour. Good. Why don't you sit longer? Okay. Came back in next day. How long did you sit? 3 hours. Walk for an hour. Difficult. Killer. A lot of pain. Don't want to do that anymore. Good. Why don't you sit longer? So I went in the next day. How long did you sit? 4 hours. Walk for an hour. Never want to do that again. Did you move? Yeah, I moved all over the place. It was painful. It's hard to do. Well, don't move. So I came in the next day and I had tears running down my cheeks because of the intense pain. I wasn't crying, it was just my ears. It's like you hit your head and your eyes water. And he said, "How long did you sit?" 4 hours. Did you move? No. And that's the worst experience of my life. He said, "Good, why don't you sit longer?" And I said, "No." Now eventually I did start sitting longer. I was sitting 6 hours, 7 hours, 8 hours. And then I would get up from the meditation and I would walk maybe 3 steps and go, "Why did I break that sitting?" And I would sit down and I'd sit for another 2 or 3 hours. But what was the advantage of doing that? Well, one of the side effects of it is I have blood clots in my legs now. And I got to understand pain pretty well, because it's really painful to sit that long. I don't see that as a good thing. I don't see that as good meditation to force your meditation. I see good meditation as being natural. And when your meditation is good, continue sitting, don't break it. When you feel like breaking your sitting, after 30 minutes, then break your sitting. But keep your meditation going. That's the key. Just because you don't sit anymore doesn't mean that you don't keep it going and all the way out to where you're going to do your walking meditation or whatever daily activities you do. Keep your meditation going. The more consistent you can keep your meditation, the better your progress becomes. It's that simple. Yeah.
During the day, the daily activities, for example, if you're eating, is the object of meditation at that point the eating, or is it always the
Spiritual friend, the metta. I don't care what you're doing. You can smile. You can send that smile to your friend. This is for the retreat. This is not for your everyday life right now. We'll talk about that as we get closer to the end of the week. But to let your mind ho-hum around and think about this and think about that and plan a little bit of this and do this, what am I going to do when I get off retreat, you're hurting yourself. This is a time to stay with your object of meditation. Every time you notice that your mind has gone to something else, then gently let it go and relax and smile and return to your object of meditation. Now you have to have an object of meditation. That's your home base. You always have to go home. Okay? So, let's share some merit then. May suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share the merit that we thus acquired for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas and nagas of mighty power, share this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.